Hello and welcome to our GiveLoveLeeds podcast, where we'll be delving into conversations being held across the city and learning more about how we can come together to create positive change for the communities that need it the most. Leeds Community Foundation is an organisation that supports thousands of charities and voluntary groups across Leeds, addressing inequalities. We invest in these groups by distributing grants and sharing advice, acting as a catalyst for positive change. Today's host is Kate Hainsworth, CEO of Leeds Community Foundation.
Hello, my name is Kate Hainsworth. I'm Chief Exec of Leeds Community Foundation. Welcome to our very first GiveLoveLeeds podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to some of our local communities about how they've been affected by the pandemic, and we'll update you on our response to our Resilience Fund and our plans moving forward. So I'd just like to give a bit of an overview of the Leeds Community Foundation Resilience Fund. Basically, our role is to provide money. It's the funds that will pay to keep staff working, to keep a group operational, to provide vital equipment that you don't have when something like a global pandemic strikes. It's that kind of support that we were really pleased to be able to provide. We called it our Resilience Fund because it seemed to us this was about our communities, our groups becoming resilient. And we turned things around incredibly quickly so that rather than going out and asking groups to apply to us, we actually called them up and found out what was happening with the groups that we knew about on the ground, how they were adapting in those first and early days of March. It was a heck of a process, no question, but wonderfully rewarding. And overall, in terms of all of our funds across the areas we serve in primarily, that's Leeds, Bradford and Wakefield, we've distributed over 4.3 million between March and October 2020. It's an astonishing amount for us. It's basically our annual income in half a year. In Leeds, for the Resilience Fund, that added up to £788,000, nearly £800,000, which was supporting 93 separate groups with 95 grants. And those grants ranged massively in terms of the support and the type of work that we were pleased to offer. That was support for young parents, for people with special educational needs, for young people, older people experience loneliness, help for asylum seekers, refugees, lots to do with work in the arts. And all of it really was about trying to keep key staff working and connected to their beneficiaries, keeping the doors, even if they were virtual doors, open and maintaining that vital human contact. We know that our speedy action to support groups has helped to keep them viable, to avoid exhaustion of reserves and probably of staff, and really giving them a little bit of thinking time about some longer term plans, a breathing space, if you like. But there's a lot more to do on that. And we're looking forward to supporting groups to transition during 2021 to become even more resilient and sustainable in terms of their models of operation, perhaps in some ways that they haven't yet foreseen. Well, I'm absolutely delighted to say we're joined by two organisations today that we've been lucky enough to be able to support through our Leeds Community Foundation Resilience Fund. They're going to be talking to us about how they've supported their local communities and the challenges and opportunities they've faced over the past 9 months. First of all, I'm delighted to welcome Nathanya Laurent from Leeds South and East Foodbank. Leeds South and East Foodbank provide emergency support to local residents experiencing food poverty. They've seen a 45% increase in demand for food parcels in the community compared to the same period last year. And I'm just very proud to say that a bit of support from the Resilience Fund allowed them to expand their food storage space whilst ensuring safe social distancing for staff and volunteers. So hello and welcome, Nathanya.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking a bit of time out to chat to us. I really appreciate it. Would you mind just expanding a little bit more about the work that you do at Leeds South and East Foodbank?
Yes, certainly. So as you just said a moment ago, first and foremost, what we do is we provide emergency food to clients in need who live in the south and east of Leeds. At the same time, we also provide advisory and signposting services, because alongside the emergency food provision, we feel that it's important to support clients and with the crisis that they're in, because we want them to get out of that crisis. So we work alongside hundreds of agencies and who we call referral partners to help people to get out of the situation that they're in. It's often to do with a financial situation and individuals and families experiencing food poverty. So we're finding, people who were, say, just about managing before the pandemic have been pushed into poverty by COVID-19 because their work may have come to an end, they've been furloughed and they just cannot make ends meet, etc. So where we come in is, of course, providing emergency food, and we do that over a short period of time whilst supporting them with advisory services, so that they can start to get back into a situation really. And we're very lucky that we have those links across the city. People are working extremely hard to make sure that our clients don't fall through the cracks, really. We're actually affiliated with a larger charity called the Trussell Trust. So again, we're very lucky that we have access to some really kind of robust research, guidelines, legislation, etc., that means that we can work, safely and provide the best possible service, that we can.
Fantastic, yeah.
The Trussell Trust's sort of ethos, really, which is that we shouldn't be here, but whilst we are, we have to do the best we can.
Absolutely.
Need our service.
Absolutely. And it's quite kind of daunting to hear the figures that you were facing, nearly 50% increase. Can you give us a bit of an idea about the challenges and maybe some of the opportunities, if there have been any, over the last 9 months?
Absolutely. Well, some of the opportunities, of course, that came our way was the being able to apply for the Resilience Fund, and we were absolutely, over the moon that we had access to that and that we were successful, because what that actually allowed us to do was to be able to expand to meet the need and the demand of our local clients, really.
Yeah.
At one, again, before the pandemic, we could see we were already busting at the seams. We were actually sharing the space with another food aid charity, and we were expanding before, and then when the pandemic hit, we realised we had to move on, really. And we just had to change our way of working, and it's been a real eye opener, because the pandemic kind of showed us really the gaps in our provision and how we could tighten up our infrastructure, our delivery, work really safely in order to make sure that clients, volunteers, the staff, our supporters, our donors, were all kind of, safe, really, and that we could still survive and deliver a service, because it's such a different climate now, isn't it, and landscape. But we have a handful of staff, all of us officially working part-time, 120 volunteers, of which the majority of volunteers actually took a step back because they are elderly or have, health concerns. So we're left with maybe 20 volunteers.
Gosh.
And part-time members of staff serving a vast community whose needs needed to be met, and we had to think on our feet, and overnight we developed new systems, new operations that meant there was no gap in provision, that we could still deliver a good job. And blimey, there was some sleepless nights, etc.
Absolutely, but massive congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We're quite proud. I must say, looking back, we're quite proud of ourselves. We cannot believe over the last 9 months what a handful of people really have done.
Have achieved.
And like I say, your funding meant that we could just take a breath, step back and go, right, what is it going to look like? What's it, in an emergency, in a crisis, what is our service looking like?
Yeah.
What is it going to look like in the future? So yes, that's what we've really been working on. And like I say, we went from having open food banks because all of our venues closed because of social distancing and restrictions. And we, overnight, we launched a delivery service. So we were taking emergency food to people's homes. And that some of those people were ill. Some of those people were, of course, shielding, etc.
Yeah. And
we just had to make it work, really. We've moved in the pandemic. We had, whilst we were moving, we were still delivering the service, everything, we've had so much thrown at us, but yet, we're still here. So it's
keeping on.
I have to give thanks to my colleagues and the core group of volunteers that we were just clinging on.
Absolutely. So Nathanya, just to bring it to life for us a little bit, would you be able to share some stories of the people that you've been able to support?
Yes, certainly. So we have, the clients that we call them clients, and the people, individuals, families that use our service. It can be anybody, really. And what has struck us since the pandemic hit is, the different groups of people that are now coming through our doors. Many people think that traditionally people who use food banks are maybe in receipt of benefits, etc. There are many people that are on universal credit and just cannot make it stretch to cover the essentials. And yes, they are, a large part of the client groups that we support. However, what we've seen is a real increase in people who we kind of call who are on low income. And they are people who have, say, they've been made redundant, or they have been furloughed due to the pandemic, and they've just not been able to make their wages stretch, really, that furlough wage stretch. We had one gentleman that came through, and he actually reduced one of our volunteers to tears because of his story. And he was trying to kind of keep his situation kind of private, or like kind of secret, really, from his children, because it's Christmas, he couldn't afford gifts, he couldn't afford food. And he just burst into tears on one of our volunteers who supported him through the crisis. And his story, which is really heartbreaking actually, was that he'd been made redundant, and we don't know what happened, but the company he worked for, the individual he worked for, wasn't going to give him redundancy pay. So he was then in a situation that he had to apply for benefits. And then there's obviously the waiting time. And sometimes it's 5, we know it's 5 weeks officially, but sometimes with everything going on, it can be up to 3 months.
Yeah.
So, he was just desperate. And this is not a gentleman that has ever used a food bank before. So many people come through and they feel kind of embarrassed, etc. They cannot believe they're in this situation. And we just put them at ease, really, because we don't judge. We just know that these people are in need and that they need our kindness and support, really. So, we kind of got him back on his feet. And it's about, like I say, he didn't, he was trying to shield his children from his situation. He was convinced that, he wasn't with the children's mother, so he was convinced that he might not see his children because he thought that his ex wouldn't want to, hand over the children for a while, so he was in a desperate state. His mental health was on the down low, and what we did was we just got him to that point where him and his child had food in their bellies, and they had the support that they needed with getting other support from other services, plus gifts for the children, etc. Those sorts of, we're just seeing these, stories coming through. Sadly, we've seen an increase in domestic violence survivors who have escaped really awful situations, and they leave with nothing, and again, where we step in is we support them with getting food in their cupboards, so at least they've got something to get them through. So we often work with West Yorkshire Police, etc., other agencies as well, who come our way to say there's somebody in need. I could go on for hours about who we support. There was a lady who her daughter was desperately ill in hospital, and she was back and forth, was using all of her money on transport, trying to get back and forth, and at the same time supporting and caring for her daughter's premature baby. And again, we stepped in to not only get her the food that she needed, but access to social services, access to baby items. Just because it's winter, they need that extra support, fuel, etc. It's tough out there. Clients,
it is
really kind of on the edge, and people's mental health is suffering. And where we can step in is to lift them out, try and lift them out of that with some really good nutritious food in their belly, some good support, and get them through these winter months, really.
And some kind contact. That's really brilliant to hear. Yeah. I know. Just talk me through what would you see as your key plans going forward? I mean, I realise that you're basically just trying to keep on top of it. But in terms of next steps, anything you wanted to share?
Yes, certainly. I mean, of course, we're kind of in survival mode at the moment, but we are in a position, now that we've moved and we've got a space where we're able to expand and actually see into the future. Something that I really wanted to share with you is that I said earlier that we are affiliated with the larger charity, the Trussell Trust, and even though we're kind of our own charity with our own charity number, etc., they support us in lots of different ways. And one of their I suppose where they're moving forward is with something called their Network for Change strategy, which they're wanting our Foodbank to get involved with that. And that is something that we are looking at doing in the future. So yes, as well as making sure that people are fed and supported, we're actually working towards the same campaign as the Trussell Trust, and it's actually called A Hunger-Free Future. So we're looking at different strategies that mean that we can work towards kind of really ending the scandal of hunger. Nobody should be going hungry. People should be able to have that dignity of being able to be able to afford the essentials, and part of that is there's sort of like three themes really that we're looking at, which is changing community, changing policy, and changing minds. And it's a big plan. Something we are quite excited about. And I think once we move out of, working in survival mode, we can really, focus on this. The strategy is really interesting. We'll be working with our area manager, to devise new strategies where we can approach Leeds City Council and other policy makers so that we can actually influence policy to make better changes, really, to have a voice for people that have used the food bank, that have had that lived experience, and to advocate on, on their behalf, and to kind of change the community's mind about kind of who we are, and what we do.
Fantastic.
I was just going to say, thank you, for your support to Leeds Community Foundation. We couldn't have moved without you. We needed that support. We needed that funding in order to kind of push us and move us forward, and to give our staff a bit of wiggle room so we could start thinking a bit more strategically. Because at one point it was just literally head down, let's just get people fed. And what you gave us is that breathing space to be able to start planning for the future. So, well,
it's an absolute joy to have been able to do that, but also thank you so much for sharing so honestly the stories and why it's so important. I know that anyone listening will be very moved by those stories, and thank you so much for doing that.
Yes.
So Nathanya, thank you, and good luck with those next steps. and looking forward to seeing how they turn out and working with you in the future.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, everybody. So look forward to next steps.
Well, I'm thrilled to welcome Stef Gascoigne from RJC Dance. RJC Dance is an inclusive, Black, British-led dance organisation, reflecting the creative case for diversity with youth development and education right at the heart of its work. I'm very proud that a bit of support from the Leeds Community Foundation Resilience Fund meant they were able to adapt their dance sessions and activities to an online format, making sure they kept within the COVID-19 restrictions. So hi, Stef, welcome.
Hello, Kate. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this first ever podcast.
I know.
Leeds Community Foundation. I feel privileged.
Me too. It's very exciting. So tell us a little bit more about RJC, Stef.
Okay, well, RJC Dance is based at the Mandela Centre in Chapeltown and has been operational for over 25 years now and works very closely with the diverse communities around our building. We are led by a very inspirational woman, a woman called Cathy Williams, who is an Olympian. So after her name, she has the word Ollie, O-L-Y. And not everybody realises this, but actually it is an acknowledgement of her Olympic status. She was the first Black woman to represent the UK at the Olympics. I think it was Los Angeles Olympics, but yeah, you need to look on our website for the specific. But as far as I know, she was a young Black woman pioneering her way to the Olympics, representing us. And she joined RJC Dance as a dancer and toured nationally and internationally with the organisation when it was a touring company. Now, as history unfolds, the company stopped touring approximately, I think it's about 10 years ago now, and has rooted itself very much within the Chapeltown community. And Cathy has been the leader with regards to the work of engaging young people in dance and adults. Usually the family is often of the young people, but the young people are the passion for Cathy, most definitely. And I am privileged to work alongside her and have been doing so for the past 8 years. And the organisation has gone from strength to strength. And our ambition is to make the Mandela an even stronger hub for young people and the community, so that there's a real sense of ownership, because the community holds the Mandela Centre to its heart. It really does. And it's a key building that needs a little bit more TLC, a bit more acknowledgement, and we want to sort of champion it from within the building, from inside. We engage young people. This is a pre-COVID, I think. Just to give you an idea, pre-COVID, we were engaging over 200 young people a week at the centre, which if you think of, 200 young people and then their families, it gets even, you're accessing and have an even a bigger family, as Cathy calls it. Now, obviously, COVID came along and was awful for so many organisations. And we were like, how can we keep connected to our families, which is important. Many of our families are disadvantaged. Many of our families require support actively, and we were like, the only way we can touch them because of COVID restrictions is through online work. Our income basically finished because we would usually receive income from our subscriptions from our young people for the classes, and hires from the dance studio, and because obviously the Mandela Centre had to be closed to the public due to COVID, so we needed to find a way to sort of fill that gap. Hence we made an application to the Leeds Community Foundation Resilience Fund to support us to maintain a level of sustainability for our operation, and bring us a level of resilience, because it was very evident that we needed to go online. We needed to go online, have diverse online offers. At that time, our online activity was mainly just a website, and it was very much a magazine style website which talked about the organisation, as opposed to an interactive relationship with our young people and our families that we connect to. So Leeds Community Foundation kindly accepted our application and have been supporting us throughout this year of COVID to maintain our activities and build on our activities online. So thank you very much.
That was fantastic. Yeah, no, I'm really, really pleased we were there at the right time. Can you maybe just expand for us a little bit, Stef, some of the stories of the people that you've been working with?
Okay, so basically we began with a very, how can I put it, generic online activity. Our aim was to connect with our families. And one of the main platforms that our families connected on was Facebook. So we started doing free online activity sessions, dance sessions, and fitness, because it goes hand in hand with us. I think it was even from sort of March, early April. And that anybody could have actually connected to us through that mechanism. So it didn't necessarily mean just our families and children and young people that we work with.
Yeah.
So it was like we threw the net out really wide, and we'd got people coming in from Canada, we'd got people coming in from Germany, we'd got people coming from Denmark.
Wow.
Because what's interesting is over the years we have undertaken international youth exchanges. So the people that we would connect with were coming into our classes, which was fantastic. I know, we were like, whoa, but then it was like, no, we need to also hope, which was brilliant for our figures. Obviously, our online audience was just getting into the thousands.
Yeah.
But then we were like, we need to hone down a little bit. So we started doing a closed session for our youth provision, which is the children and young people that we engage with. And we did those sessions on a Saturday, and we did one which is called Kids Zone. Again, it's free, it's on Facebook, and that is actually still happening. And that is for young people from the age 6 up to about 10. And then we have our youth provision session, which was open to our young people from I would say from like 11 up to like 17, 18. And we did that open sort of provision up until I would say the end of August.
Right.
Now, the end of August is very important for RJC Dance, because the end of August marks Carnival. We are very, very active in Carnival, and we're troop winners with our young people, so it's a big deal for our families, culturally, socially, everything. So we were like, what we're going to do. So Kathy came up with an idea together with one of our artists, Nathanya, that we would do a hashtag Carnival at home.
Brilliant.
So basically what we did, we streamed Carnival from our studio upstairs on Carnival Day, and we reached online 6,000 people, with our including our own young people who were sort of connected in with the dance that had been sort of shared with everybody. So we had a little bit of a Carnival online feel as much as we could. And we did connect into the Leeds West Indian Carnival online operation that they were pushing out as well. So we tried to do the best we could during that carnival time. Following Carnival, what has happened is we have tried to be a little bit more specific in deepening our relationship with our families. Obviously, COVID has dragged on, mental health issues in our community, weight issues in our community from being at home on lockdown were becoming prominent. And we know this by some of the feedback that we've had. Yeah. We've had feedback from nurses who have engaged with us, who have come off their shift, just needing a little bit of release, physical release. We've had our families who have said, engaging with us has helped towards trying to, alleviate the pressure that COVID has put on families, everybody being locked in the same place at the same time. Yeah. And it's an hours, well, particularly our adult class and some of the children and young people join into it as well. Particularly is oversubscribed, and it's because what happened with the Facebook side of it, whilst we still do some Facebook work, from after Carnival we moved into Zoom work, which is much more specific. And our Zoom figures are just going up every week. And we have specific Zoom sessions for our juniors. They have their own specific session. For our youth dance, which is the 13 upwards, they have their own specific session. This has all happened since September. And then we have the adults, and then we have our Saturdays, AM and PM, and they're the older teenagers from say 16 upwards. Yeah. So we've from being like, oh, spread the net wide, everybody come in, let's move, Joe Wick style-y. But can I just say, RJC Dance style is nothing like that. I must bring this in. Culturally, RJC Dance has a Black British dance language, which is its own style, its own delivery, and once you get the bug, you just can't disengage because it just gets you in your soul. But anyway, that's a separate thing. But what I do want to emphasize regarding the Zoom sessions, they have been very, very specifically beneficial to our families because they are weekly, they are a set time. The young people are waiting for their Zoom link, passcode, and meeting code, and what has come out of those sessions is wonderful film work. We began very much with a lockdown video of our young people. We basically said, send in a little clip from your phone of you anywhere you want, expressing how you're feeling about lockdown, and they did this. And we edited it together, and we've got a lovely lockdown video representing various of our young people sharing their physical thoughts of lockdown. Then Black Lives Matter began due to the dreadful goings on in America. And our young people were hurt by it, deeply hurt, and we had to respond to that. And so we have now created films, or the young people have created films, which they have called lockdown films, but they are tinged with the shadow of the murder of George Floyd. And Keldon, one of our young people, has shared this verbally and physically. It's quite moving. It moves me when I talk about it on our YouTube. And I think that needs to be shared everywhere. Sorry, I need a minute.
No, thank you, Stef. You just take your time.
However, it is very positive what he's done. He's lovely. It's in his room with his sofa, doing his movement, talking about him being a young black boy, working through COVID, working through Black Lives Matter, his life matters, and how it impacts on him. And I think it's a beautiful communication to the online fraternity who may wish to engage with it, really. And that wouldn't have happened, that development, that depth of art as well, I would say, and community art, real roots community art would not have happened were we not functioning. And
Yeah,
I can't reiterate enough. You've kept us going. It's kept us going to be able to do things like that and enable young Black people in our city to feel they've got a voice, that they can communicate it out, that they can creatively express it, as well as keeping, faith and keeping their mental health up during COVID and, obviously issues with schooling and all those and family issues, all of that, So, yeah, it's very much tribute to the funding in that respect, really.
It's great to hear you speak so passionately and expressively, Stef, about what it means to the community. Yeah. Just give me a hint of some of your plans going forward.
Right. Well, the plans going forward are we have a new improved website, which was well overdue. And I think, to be fair, COVID kicked us up the bum to do it, to be honest, because I think if this hadn't have happened and we just really had to grab it by, the horns and go, right, we've got to make this happen. So we've made a new website is now online. We've also managed to get the website to be monetized. So what we've just completed this first fundraising sort of element on our website last Saturday, which was like a little raffle. So we're putting fundraising wheels in motion with that for the future. Yeah. We are also planning, we anticipate, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID in 2021, but we are planning for a blended operation. And I think COVID has changed everybody, and it's changed, and it will have changed RJC hugely as well. We will be providing both an online facility as well as a face-to-face facility once we can get the Mandela back in our arms, because I think that is the future. I think the film work that we've engaged with throughout COVID has developed artistically. Our young people have become so much more confident dealing in front of the camera, working the camera. We are hoping to, one of the things that will happen at Touchwood, we have a youth provision, a youth international youth exchange to Aruba happening.
Wow!
Where some of our and again, Aruba's COVID cases, they're very, very, very tiny, and they're not on any danger lists at this moment in time. This will, Touchwood, happen in March, April 2021.
Remind us where Aruba is, Stef?
It's in the Caribbean. It's a small island in the Caribbean. Yes. Yeah. So basically, our young people from Chapeltown, Leeds will be working with young people from Aruba. We will be continuing our online classes, Zoom sessions, which are closed for our youth provision, as well as we are planning our mashup sessions, which is will be our Facebook sessions that anybody can come and join in, as well as our adult community class, which happens every Thursday. And then open it up to the wide world on the Facebook. We've also started an Instagram because, again, it's just moved our social media activity on. And another thing I must point out, funding from LCF has enabled us to engage a digital media person, Faye, and she's been great. With the posting out on social media. And she's just adding an extra layer of value to what RJC Dance is doing online and communicating it out and shouting about it. Because often with RJC Dance, we are busy doing it. We're just not busy shouting about it. So I'm hoping we'll become a more sophisticated RJC Dance that's got a bit more online activity as well as face-to-face whenever that can resume.
Thank you so much, Stef. My goodness, that's a brilliant sort of overview of exactly where currently and also where will be RJC in 2021. And we're really looking forward to working and hearing more about how that develops as the year unfolds. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I think you can hear the passion, commitment, determination and fantastic creativity of our community groups. We're so lucky to be able to work with groups delivering on the front line of human contact day in and day out. We know they are our best guides and inspiration, especially when it comes to finding solutions for communities. So our plans moving forward are to do more of that whenever and wherever we can. We work really hard to raise the funds. Without our generous local philanthropists, we couldn't do what we currently do. And so if anyone is inspired by this podcast, please check out our website for ways to get involved in donating or becoming a member of our work. The Leeds Community Foundation mission strives to ensure everyone gets the chance to access opportunity. That can mean in terms of health, community safety, the chance to learn, work and be financially well, and of course also to play and enjoy life. I hope you got a sense of some of that in this, our first episode. So a massive thank you to you for listening, and particularly to our guests, Nathanya, Laurent and Stef Gascoigne, for joining us today. Thank you for your time.
If you enjoyed this episode, take a couple of seconds to rate it on your favourite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our newsletter on Leeds Community Foundation. You can also visit our website at leedscf.org.uk. Feel free to email us at info@leedscf.org.uk. Speak to you soon for the next episode of Give Love Leeds.